Assalamu alaikum. Many of you know me through my work at CARE. It is where I have spent the bulk of my career striving to protect and empower American Muslims. But American Muslims for Palestine holds a special place in my heart. As a young girl, I grew up in a home with Pakistani immigrants who took pride in our history, who took pride in their immigration story. And though they themselves were not from Palestine, they watched the news breaking about Palestine on a nearly daily basis. They raised us to care for this special place. They taught us that because we are Muslims, this is our cause. Because we are Muslims, this place holds a special place in our heart. It is a human rights issue. It is a religious issue. It is a moral issue. But I never knew what I could do. We would send our money to Palestine, we would pray for the people in Palestine, and we would watch the news. That was until I learned about AMP and AMP's work. A few years ago, I had the special honor of visiting Palestine at the invitation of AMP. And what I saw shook me to my core, first and foremost because I understood that many of my own Palestinian brothers and sisters could not take the trip that I was taking. They were turned away at the border when, though I was interrogated and delayed, I was able to come in. My blue American passport and my Pakistani heritage gave me more access to that land than the Palestinians who are from there themselves. And so when asked, why do I support AMP? Why do I support this work? It's because AMP connects the dots. AMP gives us the tools that we need to fight the oppression. AMP says, enough putting Band-Aids on the problem, let's fight the root causes. And that's what this conversation is about. The connection between Islamophobia and Zionism. I want to underscore first and foremost that as Muslims, Islamophobia is not something we've been dealing with for 10 years or 20 years. It's something that we've been dealing with for hundreds of years. From the moment that our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, introduced his message to his community, people opposed him. People opposed him, people were violent against him, they dehumanized him, they boycotted him, and the Muslims were unsafe. But over and over again, they turned to their faith and they emerged victorious. So these conversations are heavy, but they are not unprecedented. It can feel difficult at times, but we have a history of winning. We don't have a history of being richer or more powerful necessarily. We have a history of winning because we have Allah on our side. So when you hear what we are saying and you think about the millions of dollars and the big organizations and the networks, remember that we have a history of winning and that we have been doing that and we will continue to do that. I want to underscore what Brother Atta said, which was that at the root of this is a dehumanization of our communities. Muslims are not good enough. Arabs are not good enough. Palestinians don't believe in peace. They teach their children violence. If they would just stop fighting, then everything would be okay. We know that that's not true. We know that it's a talking point, that they dehumanize us to advance their agenda. Brother Atta reminded us of that. Brother Nihad reminded us that this is not a hidden connection. All of you in this room, and hopefully everyone within 6 degrees of separation from you knows that Islamophobia is a well-funded conspiracy, a well-funded project to marginalize us, to imprison us, to deport us, to silence us. And they do it because they're afraid of what we will do. They're afraid of our message, they're afraid of our advocacy. They know that Muslims fight for Black Lives Matter. They know that Muslims fight for police accountability. They know that Muslims fight against homelessness and poverty. They know that Muslims care for the environment. And most importantly, they know what my parents taught us, that Muslims fight for Palestine, that Muslims will fight for a free Palestine, and so they must come after us. Many of us on this stage and many of your colleagues in nonprofit organizations are professional fundraisers. I spend more of my time asking for money than I do lawyering, which makes me a little bit jealous of the more traditional lawyers. I'm going to people and I'm saying, can you write that check? Can you give me your credit card number? 100, 500, 1,000, 10,000. And we work and we sweat and we work for $100,000 here, $200,000 here, and then we hear about what the Islamophobia industry is spending. Brother Nihad gave us specific examples, tens of millions of here, tens of millions there. What we're talking about is hundreds of millions of dollars spent on dehumanizing our community with the agenda of silencing us, pushing us out, repressing us, killing our hope, which is why I started with the reminder that we win. And we continue to win. Because if we lose our hope, they win. That's what they spend the money on. Growing up post 9/11, for a brief period of time, I thought that if we could just fight Islamophobia in the United States and disregard the foreign issues, maybe we'd make some advances. If I could get my Jewish and Christian brothers in the United States to just understand why I eat halal meat and I pray 5 times a day, then maybe I would be safer. And what we lost sight of in that conversation was that our opposition was out organizing us. Our opposition wasn't making a distinction between domestic and international. To them, Muslims here or abroad, Palestinians here or abroad, Arabs here or abroad, people of conscience here or abroad are a threat to them. So we have to stop making that distinction. We have to connect the dots. The organizations that promote Zionist agendas, materials, marketing, and legislation are the same ones that want to ban Muslims, are the same ones that want to pass anti-Sharia legislation. The police officers in the United States who kill unarmed black men, women, and children are trained by the Israeli military. The technology that is used at the US-Mexico border is the same technology used at the apartheid wall. We have to make these connections because if we don't, they are doing it anyways. When we talk about Islamophobia, we think oftentimes about the vehement fascists, the ones that Brother Nihad reminded us of, the Daniel Pipes, the Stephen Emersons, the Pamela Gellers. But I also want us to pay attention to the polite Zionists, the ones that say, let's just break bread together. We oppose a Muslim ban in the United States, but we cannot support Palestinian human rights. We need to pay attention to the Anti-Defamation League. We need to pay attention to the Jewish Federation. We need to pay attention to the Zionist synagogues. We need to pay attention to the Hillel chapters on our campuses, because just because they're your friend today doesn't mean that they have your back when it comes to human rights. So oppose the vehement fascists, but oppose the polite Zionists too. They are not your friends. They will not be there for you when you need them. They will take your friendship and throw your Palestinian brothers and sisters under the bus. Oh, you get along because you're all in Girl Scouts together? Talk to them about what is happening in Palestine and see how that conversation goes. And so when we think about Islamophobia and Zionism, let's be clear about the connections. There is no difference between domestic policy and foreign policy when it comes to our human rights. There is no difference between domestic policy and foreign policy when it comes to those who seek to target us. And so when we do our work here in the US, we have to work together because they're working with or without us. Now, how do you fight back? Know your friends. Who actually has your back? Know that you can call American Muslims for Palestine. And by the way, you should be a monthly donor to American Muslims for Palestine. Build it into your budget and forget about it. Make it your monthly contribution because you're contributing to the apartheid monthly. It is a part of your budget. You are paying your taxes, so you should be giving money to AMP monthly. Know your friends. Know that you can call CARE. If you face a boycott or legislation or something where you are being targeted for your views, know that you can call CARE, where you should also, by the way, be a monthly donor, because we will support you. We will file the lawsuit on your behalf, and we will not charge you. Know your JVP leadership, your SJP leadership, your If Not Now leadership. The list goes on. Know who is on your side. Build community with them. Because the next thing I'm going to tell you is to know your enemies. And I'm not going to sugarcoat that. They are your enemies. There are organizations and infrastructures out there who are working to harm you. Make no mistake of it. They would sell you down the line if they could. And they very often do behind your back. I mean the Zionist organizations. I mean the foreign policy organizations who say they're not Zionist but want a two-state solution. I'm not a Palestinian myself, but it's my understanding that that is laughable. So know your enemies. And because it's the last time I'll talk to you this Saturday, let me just tell you also, know the Muslim organizations that are out to harm you. Know the Muslim organizations that are not holding to their principles, and hold them accountable, because they're doing it in your name. In some ways, they are worse than the Zionists, because at least the Zionists will tell you what they're out for. But when Muslim organizations sell you out, they're doing it in your name. Be principled. Be principled and consistent. We are fighting for a free Palestine. That is eyes on the prize. That is the goal. If you have to give up anything along the way, that's not the right fight. You are fighting for a free Palestine. Never trade short-term wins for long-term losses. You think it's convenient today to do something, but you're harming the cause of Palestine? That's not the route you want to go. It may look appealing, it may look attractive, you may get a great photo opportunity, you may get an incredible donation, but that was a short-term win and you lost on the long-term cause. Never sell others out. If what you will do will harm the cause, it's not the right thing to do. Never sell others out. Someone wants to organize against Palestine with you. Someone says, oh, that organizer's really rowdy. You know, maybe we'll do it a different way. That's not the route for us. We're in this together. And then, eyes on the prize. Allah has promised us victory. We know from our history. We've seen the incremental progress we have made even since the last in-person convention. If 2 Novembers ago we had said that dozens of members of Congress would support the cause of Palestine, that millions of people would march in the streets in a pandemic, that media outlet after media outlet would cover this cause, we may have had some doubts, but we know that victory is in the cards for us. Jazakallah khair.